Hi, and welcome to episode 37 of the Noble Character Crafts podcast. My name is Amy, and I am coming to you from eastern Nebraska, where I live on a farm with my husband and our 5 children. Today is Friday, August 24th, 2018. This is a podcast all about my life as a knitter, a crocheter, and a hand dyer of yarn, as well as a sewist. You can find me online on Instagram and Etsy at Noble Character Crafts. You can find me on Ravelry at Noble Character, and I also have a group for this podcast in Ravelry under Noble Character Crafts Podcast. In that group, you'll be able to find the show notes for this episode as well as previous episodes, as well as several other chatter threads. So I would love it if you would join that Ravelry group. I am currently hosting a knit along with the lovely ladies of the Meanwhile at the Castle podcast, and it is called the Be My Neighbor Cal. It is in honor of Mr. Rogers, who often wore cardigans that his mother knitted for him, and so this cal is for any knitted or crocheted cardigan of any size, and it also includes any charity or gift projects that you would like to make. So there's a wide variety of things that would fit into this cal, and I would absolutely love it if you would join. There is a chatter thread as well as a finished object thread in the Ravelry group, and I will be drawing prizes from the finished object thread once a month. And the cal is going to be going at least until the end of this year, so it may be extended even into 2019, but for now it is at least going until the end of 2018. So again, I would love it if you would join us in preparation for the upcoming autumn and winter season, as well as Christmas coming up, so there's lots of opportunities for gift knitting for that as well. I have a couple of finished objects to share with you. I was able to finish 2 more of the At Your Service knit cloth pattern. That is a free pattern by Yarnspirations. And I am planning on making several of these for Christmas gifts, so this is the second and third one that I have made so far. I finished this one first. I did the main section in the Rosemary colorway from Peaches and Cream yarn. And this top section is from Lily Sugar and Cream in the Emerald Isle colorway. And then this one was done in the red colorway from Peaches and Cream, and I believe this one is called Salt and Pepper. I'm not sure if that's Lily or Peaches, but it's one of the two. 100% cotton worsted weight yarns that are easy to find at your local craft store, at least where I'm from anyway. And this is such an enjoyable pattern. I'm really enjoying it. I used US size 6 4mm needles for this, which is smaller than what the original pattern calls for, but I am actually getting a looser gauge still with smaller needles. I'm getting 16 stitches to 4 inches for the gauge. And so I've adjusted the pattern a little bit. Instead of casting on 49 stitches as the pattern suggests, for these 2 I went down to 45 stitches just to make the finished measurements more accurate to what the pattern calls for. But I like the gauge and how this is knitting up, so I didn't want to go down any further with needles to get the correct gauge. I really like the feel of this fabric. So anyway, the super simple pattern, you just cast on from the bottom and work up in the seed stitch with a garter edging, of course, and then you just do some decreases up here at the top and switch the color and make this longer garter section. And you include a little buttonhole. I have continued to use these little daisy buttons. I have quite a few in my stash, so I'm using up quite a few of those for these towels because I just have them in stash. So I'll use them up, and they work perfectly for these. So I really like the colors of this red and white and black together. So yeah, super easy. So I wanted to show you the comparison of the first one I made from, I showed you last time. I had cast on the 49 stitches, and in comparison you can kind of see that this one is a bit bigger. So this is more accurate to what the size of the pattern calls for. But of course this is still a nice, beautiful towel. So I'm planning on making probably a dozen of these to give away for Christmas presents to friends and family. So yeah, I'm really enjoying those. These are kind of becoming my car knitting, you know, an easy project that I don't have to think about. And I think I'll just continue to have these on the go, on repeat until Christmas time, or until I have enough made, whichever comes first. So I really am enjoying this and highly recommend the pattern. I think when I'm done making them for everybody else, I kind of want to use all of my scraps that are left over to make myself a crazy one, I think. I'm really enjoying those a lot. Okay, I have a few works in progress to share with you as well. I have, this is in my Tanny Casey project bag, little linty, which again, I've shared many times, but I absolutely love this project bag. This is a cotton and steel fabric up here that I love so much. And I have re-knit a lot of the yoke of my Birdie Fair Isle cardigan, which is a beautiful pattern by Hannah FETTIG. And last time I podcasted, I showed you a picture of how it looked after I had finished the swallow section. So in this color work, there are these swallow birds. And I had finished that last time and blocked it. And my tension was horrible in various areas of my work. So I completely ripped it back and started over. I did a lot of adjustments with my needle size. So I went down from a US size, I had originally started with a US size 7, which is 4.5 millimeter, and I went down to a US 5 for the ribbing, which is 3.75. Yes, 3.75 millimeter for the ribbing, and I love how that looks so much more. It's a much tighter ribbing. I kept with the US size 8, which is 5 millimeter for the main body, but then for the color work, I had been using a US 9, but went up to a US 10, which is a 6 millimeter needle, and that looks so much better. It's probably still not perfect. This is actually only my 4th color work project, so I'm no expert by any means, but it does look a lot better through this area in the color work. Then there's like 3 rows, I think, of just regular, you know, there's no color work for about 3 rows, so I went back down to a US 8, and then again went back up to a US 10 for the swallows. I have made some modifications to this pattern in that I am making it in the round. The original pattern calls for it to be made flat, but I have added 5 extra stitches to this middle front section so that I can steek it and work in the round, which is going so well. Last time I shared with you that I worked the swallows in using intarsia, but I made some adjustments to that as well this second time around. I had mentioned last time that I wasn't sure, so this is the front, and last time I shared with you I wasn't quite sure about the original pattern has a heart that goes in the center of the back, and I decided to eliminate that, and instead I added 2 extra swallows to the yoke. So there's only supposed to be 8 swallows on the original pattern, and then again the heart in the middle of the back, but I have done 10 swallows, 5 on each side. And in order to fit them in, I just did a little bit of math and calculated how many stitches were left in between each swallow and divided that evenly so that I would have enough room to fit 10 swallows instead of only 8. And it just worked out really well, I think. It worked out very evenly, actually. There were 10 extra stitches in between each swallow, except for in the very back. I only had 9 stitches left over. So it just worked out really well. I'm really happy with how it's coming along. I'm so excited that my tension looks better. And I have this on waste yarn right now so that I could block it, and I tried it on and it fits really well. And so I'm super excited to get this back on needles and start working on it more. I'm super excited to work on this some more. So I can't wait to see it come to life more. And yeah, I'm so pleased with it. I am using Knit Picks Wool of the Andes worsted weight yarn. The 4 different colors I'm using are Mink Heather for the main body. The dark charcoal is called Onyx Heather. The blue is called Wonderland Heather. And the gold is Wheat. I am getting a gauge which is a little bit tighter than what the recommended gauge is. So the recommended gauge is 20 stitches to 4 inches, and I'm getting 20.5 stitches to 4 inches. And I had a revelation this week as I was working on this and thinking about my gauge, and I have made a mistake with the baby sweater I made, the double Dutch cardigan, my little girl's pink shrug that I just made, and with this one originally. I was off by half a stitch, I think, with each of those projects, and for some reason I was thinking that my gauge was half a stitch looser, but actually that's half a stitch tighter, because in every one of them I've been, instead of 20 stitches, I've been 20.5, or, you know, there's different, you know what I mean. I'm always like a half of a stitch tighter, and I think several times I've said, oh, it's just going to be a little bit bigger, but no, that's not right. It's going to be a little bit smaller. So anyway, half a stitch I don't think really makes a big enough difference in sizing anyway, and this fits well, and my daughter's shrug fits well, and the baby sweater, the mom really thought that it looked like a great size for her little guy. I don't think she tried it on right away, obviously, because it's August, but anyway, I am not worried about the fit for this anyway, but I just wanted to correct myself because I know I've made a mistake, and maybe some of you were like, wait, she doesn't know what she's talking about. No, I don't. Sometimes I don't. I'm still new to garment knitting for sure. I have only been knitting for, well, about 1.5 years, so yeah, I have a lot of learning to do yet. Anyway, I think that's all I have to say about this. I'm super excited about it, and this is one of my contributions for the Be My Neighbor Cal, as well as the knit cloths that I'm making, because those are gifts, and this is a cardigan, so both of those, or all of those projects, apply to the knit along, so that's exciting as well. I can't wait to get working on this some more. Okay, my next work in progress is a new cast on that I am also very excited about. This is in a Me Made project bag, and I made this using the Easy Drawstring tutorial by Erica Arndt, if you're interested in trying one yourself. As soon as I saw the new design by Jamie Hoffman of Knitosophy, I knew I wanted to make it. I just fell in love with this design from the first moment that I saw her working on it on her Instagram feed, and it is the V-back tee, and oh, I'm just so excited about this project as well. But once again, gauge is an issue for me. I constantly have gauge issues, and it doesn't seem to be really consistent, because with some projects I have to go way up in needles, some projects I have to go way down in needles, but I guess that's just normal. Everybody's got a different gauge, but I just have such a hard time getting gauge for patterns, it seems. I have to swatch at least 4 times, it feels like. Anyway, for this project, I'm going way out there, because usually I try to get really close to the gauge, but I am not very close to the gauge on this project. So this project calls, or this pattern calls for 22 stitches to 4 inches. I did a few different gauge swatches. It's recommended to use a US size 6, but from my daughter's shrug that I had just made, I knew that I was getting a tighter gauge with US 6s than what this pattern is called for. So I started off with a US size 7, swatching with a US size 7, and I got 24 stitches to 4 inches. So then I went up to US size 8, and I got 23 stitches, and again the pattern is calling for 22 stitches. But when I did this swatch with the US size 8, which are 5mm, this is my little swatch that I made. And I really did not care for how loose this was. I mean, it's just really super loose. So you can see right through it. And I just was not happy with that. And I thought that it was gonna be, I don't know, I just didn't think I was gonna be happy with the finished product with such a loose gauge. And so I'm being very rebellious. And I went back down to the US size 7, which again was 24 stitches to 4 inches for the gauge, but I really like the fabric a lot better than it made, and I just decided to go up 1 size in the pattern. So I was really nervous about that working out, but I tried it on last night and it seems to be working, I think. In fact, it might be a little bit big. But, because I was afraid it was going to be too small. But anyway, here is my progress so far. I have already split for the sleeves. I just did that last night, so there's not much room beyond that. But I tried it. I really wanted to get to this part so that I could really get a better idea of how it was going to fit. And I think it's fitting well. From what I can tell, I think it's going to work. So anyway, this is made using all fingering weight. The original pattern used 5 different colorways in the garment. I am using at least 10. I might even add in a few more. I'm not quite sure. But I am using lots of different scraps and mini skeins, and I'm really excited about that. I love it when I can use scraps and, you know, little bits of yarn to put together into one project. I think that's so fun. So I started off with, what did I use for the ribbing? I think I went down to a US size 5. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I went down to a US size 5, 3.75 millimeter needle for the cast on ribbing. I did a tubular cast on, which is quite fiddly, but it does give it a nice finish, so I'm glad I did that, I guess. It's quite a lot more time consuming though. And this first yarn that I used is, I don't have the extra skein handy, but it is a one-of-a-kind yarn that I dyed on my Radiant base, which has 30% silk in it. And I haven't used that in a garment before, so I was also a little bit leery about how that would be, but I know that I've heard other people talk about how they have made garments using silk content, you know, so I think it's okay. I hope it isn't too drapey, but I think it's going to be good. And then this bright green that I just put in is a mini skein that I received from Emily of EMMY Couture Yarns. She had sent that along with her square for the 2018 collaboration Afghan, so I was so excited to be able to use that, and I really enjoyed working with her yarn. I had a few itty bitty little minis. There was 2 of them, and the total weight of both little minis was only 6 grams. They were both from a homespun house, and so they only make up like 2 or 3 rows here. You got these little yellow specks, and there was quite a bit of green in those little tiny mini skeins as well. Here's a little bit of, there's some pink specks in those little tiny balls as well. So you can see that there. And then now I am working with this light teal color, and that is a mini skein that is from a Bermuda dyer. I forget the name of her company now. I'll put it down below, but this I received in a swap from Marianne of Rock Islander. And then I'm also using one of my colorways, which matches that color really well, and it is my Spring Rain colorway, and this is also on my Radiant base, which has some silk content. So I'm really excited about that, how it's coming along, and I'm also not following the pattern for the way that the colors are faded together, because I'm using such tiny little scraps. It's a little bit tricky to manage the yarn, and I did pretty well fading this green in, but as soon as I was done fading it in, I had to fade it back out again because it was already used up, and then I didn't really have a chance to fade in this light teal color. It just kind of started, but it's okay. I think it's going to work well together, but it isn't quite as well faded there. It's really not faded at all. I just went from the tiny little mini skeins that I was using into the light teal, but it's okay. I think it's still going to look nice. This is a reversible pattern, so it is called the V back, so it was originally intended to be worn with this being the front and of course the V in the back, but it can be worn with the V in the front as well, so That's exciting, and it's just a tee, so it has short sleeves and goes down to the hips. It's, you know, kind of a regular shirt length, I guess. Yeah, I just am really enjoying it. It's super simple. You know, it's all stockinette now, so you're just doing a few different stitches for the V shaping. Yeah, I'm really enjoying it. It's exciting to see all the different colors come together, and my plan is then to eventually fade down into my Deep Waters colorway, which is a deep navy blue. That's my intention, to have this be at the very bottom. So, and I have a few other colors that I'm going to put in between, so I'll share those colorways with you as I knit them up. So anyway, loving this so much and very excited to have this. I'm really hoping to have this done, you know, before summer ends, so I can at least wear it a few times before the weather gets too cold. So hopefully I'll be able to get some significant work done on that this week as well. All right, so those are my knitting works in progress. I have been working on the 2018 collaboration Afghan quite a bit. So this is a project that I am organizing with 48 indie dyers of yarn, and I asked each of them to knit or crochet a 7-inch square, mail them to me, and I am piecing them together into an Afghan that will then be sent over to Lisa of Indie Untangled, and it will be on display at the Indie Untangled Trunk Show in October. And one of the attendees of the One of the attendees of the trunk show will have the opportunity to win the Afghan. So it's a very exciting collaboration, and I'm having so much fun working on this. It really is. I enjoy hand sewing pieced things together anyway. I really do. Especially Afghans. I've done that quite a bit, and I do really enjoy it. And there's just an extra bonus to doing this project because I get to work with all of these different yarns and colorways, and it's really so much fun to actually stitch these squares together, knowing that 48 indie dyers are united into this one project. And I don't know, I just think it's so neat to actually knit them or sew them together and unite them into one piece. Anyway, it's making me very happy to work on this. So last week I showed you I had only stitched together the top row, the first 6 right here, and I have been able to get 5 more rows on it. Can you see this? There we go. So it's like a 6x6 square right now. And it's so exciting to see it come together. So I'll just go over the squares that I've added this week. This is from Asylum Fibers. This is from YOUGHIOGHENY yarns. This is from EMMY COUTURE. The Loving Path yarns. Once Upon a Corgi. The Whole Knit and Caboodle. This red one is One Hand in the Dye Pot. Autumn and Indigo. Woolberry Fiber Co. Sweet Sparrow yarns. Moonstone DYEWORKS. Suburban Stitcher. Wild Hair Fiber. Spencer Hill Naturally Dyed Yarns. Dusty Dimples. I Would Die for You. Dragon Hoard yarns. Plank and Stella. Fiber for the People. Dandelion and Dogwood. The Woolen Homestead. Stitch Together Studio. Knitting It Up, Bad Wolf Girl Studios, Adelaide Cottage, the Blackberry Ridge, Cedar Hill Farm Company, Songbirdie, Eden Cottage Yarns, and Junk Yarns. So it's coming along really well. I only have 2 rows left to stitch on, and then I'm going to be working on the border. So I'm really excited about how this is coming along, and yeah, I'm hoping to continue to work on this and get it done as soon as possible. I don't want to get too close to the Indie Untangled Trunk Show deadline before I'm done with it. I don't want to be rushed, so I really want to stay focused on this project as well so I can get it done in time. I got a few things this week, a few new things. I went to our local thrift store, and I love to bargain shop. So I was able to pick up some yarn from the thrift store that I'm super excited about. This is black, pure black, Nevada Celesta. It is 50% kid mohair and 50% some kind of wool. Oh, pure virgin wool. So 50 grams. I'm super excited about that, and it was only 50 cents, I think. Originally it was $1, but I think it was marked down to 50 cents. Looks like it's not been used at all yet. I also got this one, which is also a mohair. It is #1 Country brand, I guess. It's from Paris. And it's 80% mohair and 20% chlorofibers. And I don't know the colorway. It might be called Bain, B-A-I-N. But I really liked the colors in that. And I haven't actually knit with mohair before, so I'm excited to try to work these into some projects soon, hopefully. And I also picked up these 2 skeins, which are both Fairhaven 100% pure virgin wool 3-ply fingering yarn. They are moth proof. That's kind of cool. And these were both 50 cents each as well, and in black, and this one is called Camel. So these would work really well for some color work, perhaps. They're a good type of wool for that. And then I also picked up this mystery bundle of yarn. I'm thinking it might be Knit Picks Wool of the Andes as well. It has that same feel, but it's got some really pretty colors in there. It's like an indigo color from far away, but then if you look closer, it's got quite a few different colors mixed in there. And I thought this might be good to add in with some of my other worsted weight, you know, Wool of the Andes yarns for other color work projects. So this, I think, for all of this yarn was only $8. My bill was $8 for all of this. So super excited to find those and grab them. So hopefully I'll be able to work them into some projects soon. So the last thing I have to share with you is a shawl set. Every time I podcast, I like to share a set of 3 skeins that would work well for a shawl or some other 3 skein project. And I just like to give an idea of the different colorways that I have in my shop, because I always have all of my colorways available on all 9 of my bases. So I don't do regular updates. So that's why I just like to give you all an idea of what colorways I have in my shop and what colorways work well together. And actually I've had a trend the last few weeks of having a new colorway to show you, and actually this week I have 2 new colorways to share with you. This isn't a normal thing for me to always be coming up with new colorways every week, but I just happen to have done that lately. So anyway, here is my shawl set for this week. I really am happy with this. It's so fun and fresh looking, I think. So the 2 new colorways are these 2. This one you have seen many, many times before because it just goes so well with so many projects. This is my Deep Waters colorway. I already showed you that with my other project as well. So the new colors are Stream of Water. So it's a nice tonal just a solid blue. I am really happy with this. I have been wanting to make this color for a while and just hadn't gotten around to it. And the first time I tried dyeing it up, it turned out like neon. So I was able to tone it down a little bit, and I'm really happy with how this turned out. And I'm also planning on putting both of these new colors into my V-back tee as well. That was really the motivation that I had for finally dyeing this up, because I really wanted to put it into my project that I'm working on. And also this one. So this, I actually first dyed this up over a year ago, but I haven't dyed it since, and I never listed it in my Etsy shop. So this is called Fountains of the Deep, and I'm really happy with how this turned out as well. It's just got a nice light teal base, or turquoise base, and then it is hand painted with the bright blue and navy blue, and then a few different mixtures of, or shades of blue in between. So it's got a nice, very watery, you know, these colors definitely remind me of the ocean, which of course their names are reflecting that as well. So again, Deep Waters, Fountains of the Deep, and Stream of Water. Yeah, so all three of these colors will also be in my V-back tee. So that's kind of giving you an idea of how I'm going to be fading it. I think it'll kind of be like that near the bottom. So anyway. So I think that's all I have to share with you this week. We are all doing well here. There's not really any news, so we are just enjoying life, and no news is good news, right? Thanks again so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. If you did enjoy this podcast, please feel free to give me a thumbs up. I would really appreciate that, as well as subscribing to this channel if you would like. I would appreciate that very much as well. I hope you all have a wonderful week ahead. Thanks again. Bye-bye.